So there are moments in all of our lives where we are changed from the inside. There are moments that cause us to see the world a little bit differently or our place in the world a little bit differently. And sometimes these moments are really big. You know, it can be like a birth or even a death. It can be a seeming miracle or a disaster. Sometimes these things can also be small. They can just be a sudden realization of how things fit together that you didn't know before. Or maybe like an overwhelming feeling of calm or peace at a time in your life when you know you should not be feeling calm or peace. And sometimes we call those epiphanies. One, what I would call epiphany now, in my life happened the summer before my senior year of high school. It was maybe the hardest summer of my life because my wife, Maggie, who was then my girlfriend, had just lost her 19-year-old sister in a terrible accident. And I was there, I was part of this journey for them, and so there was a lot of pain and grief and heartache all around, seemingly closing in on us all that summer. I remember many evenings I would spend just sitting quietly next to her bed so that she could fall asleep and not be alone before getting in my car and trying to drive home by myself and wrestling what it meant that I felt the way that I felt, the grief, the pain. And I remember one night in particular, I was so angry. I was just done with the whole thing. So I stopped being sad and I was just mad. Teenage rage. And I was mad at the situation. I remember being mad at myself because how dare I even feel mad when Maggie and her family really have the right to be mad. And for sure I was mad at God. Very, very mad at God. And so, because my prefrontal cortex was not all the way developed, I did what teenagers do, and I let that anger fuel my action. So I got in behind the wheel of my car, and I drove out of Maggie's driveway and down that windy road that led away from her house way too fast. I mean, I remember thinking in my head, I just don't care. I don't care about any of this. And I just went. And who knows what would have happened, but I caught the tiniest glint of light in the middle of the road, and instinctively I slammed on my brakes. And my wheels locked up, and my car did that thing it does when your wheels lock up where you're not sure if you're going to stay on the road, but I did, and I came to rest in the middle of the road, inches away from a large deer. Just looking at me through the windshield. I remember making eye contact. I remember the glint of the moonlight in its eyes, and it was just chilling. And then it turned away and sauntered off the road lazily like nothing had happened. And to get why I'm not just calling this a moment or even just a God moment, but an epiphany, I think you have to understand of what I have come to believe an epiphany is. And that's where we get to our gospel story today. So this is a story about one of the three major epiphanies that we celebrate every single year. Moments where God is made manifest, because remember, the word epiphany means manifestation. So there is the incarnation. Jesus was born. God became incarnate. There's Jesus' baptism, where the heavens are open, and we hear the voice of God claiming Jesus as God's own. And there's today, which is the Transfiguration, where Jesus is revealed in all of his divine glory. We hear the voice of God again. And to understand why this moment was so important in the moment, not just for the story that we now tell after we know what everything happened, you have to hear the first few words that was read in the gospel, where it says, 6 days before this. 6 days before this event is the first time Peter says out loud, maybe the first time he recognizes it, who knows, but definitely the first time he manifests it with his voice, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And this changed everything for Jesus and the apostles. Because it's at that moment, and Matthew uses a literary device to tell us, Matthew says, from that time on, Jesus began telling them, And from that time on, Jesus began telling them what it meant that he was the Messiah. Not the good parts, not the liberation, not the freedom from oppression, but the part where they were heading to Jerusalem for a reason. He told them about the suffering. He told them about the pain. He told them about the betrayal. So these group of people who had, remember, left their entire lives behind to follow this movement, and they were human, so I have to imagine some of them were thinking this movement is going to bring liberation and joy. And of course, we know it eventually does. But they're being told in this moment, no, all of this preaching and teaching and healing and miracles, they're all great, but they're all leading to a specific event that is, quite frankly, not going to be very fun. And to make matters a little more interesting, Jesus starts telling them also, oh, by the way, it's not just me. You're going to have to suffer too. He tells them that they're going to have to pick up their cross and carry it and follow him. He says, in order to save their lives, they're going to have to be able to be willing to lose it. So it's in the context of this uncertainty and this darkness that just enveloped this little group that Jesus takes just a few of them up the mountain to witness, to encounter God, to quite literally see the light of God breaking through the cracks, even in this dark time. And it is no wonder that Peter wants to stay. Peter says, Lord, it is good that we are here. And then he offers to build Jesus 3 tabernacles. The word in your bulletin says dwellings, but it's the same word that we use to describe the mobile temple that the Israelites carried around with them in the wilderness, the dwelling place of God. So in a way, Peter is saying, Lord, it is good that we are here. Let's build 3 churches up here to honor this moment so we can be here forever in this glory. But of course, we know that goodness could not be kept there, not in a church, not on a mountain, not where people had to go find it. It had to be brought back down the mountain and spread far and wide, but not until people could understand what it meant. Not until the pain and the darkness could really be felt. That epiphany didn't actually change anything for what was to happen. There was still pain and darkness, and my guess is while all that was happening, while Peter was denying Jesus 3 times, I don't think he thought back, wait, but the mountaintop, this will make it easier. It wasn't until much after that. And that's why I call my moment on Weaver Road an epiphany, because it wasn't until I sat with it for a long time over the course of most of my life that I started to realize what it meant. And I've thought back to that moment so many times that it's become like a mythological story in my life, like one that I'm almost like, is that even real? Was the deer really as big as I remember it? Was I really as close to hitting it as I remember? What did God want me to know in that moment? I mean, I know that quite literally I was confronted with the mere inches that sometimes come between us and disaster, so that's a lesson. But that summer, the only actual fact that I remember, the little t truth that I know for sure was real, was that summer was not easier because of that moment. It still was terrible. It was hard. It's not until now, looking back, that I think there was some goodness there. And that is the epiphany, the capital T truth that I have come to know in that epiphany, is that the light of God is breaking through to us constantly in big and small ways, and we just have to have the mindset to see it for what it is. And it's no wonder when we have those moments that, like Peter, we want to hold on to them. Especially in the church, a lot of us come here with a little bit of light inside because we know there's other people here that will get it. They also have some light. They think like us, they pray like us, they believe like us, and we can have our light together. Or maybe we're starting to feel a little bit of dark and we show up here for the stories and the songs and the prayers that could give us a little bit of light that will help us make it through what is to come. Whether that's the season of Lent and Holy Week and Good Friday, or whether that's just the next week, the next news cycle. Maybe it'll help us get past the next shooting that we want to dwell in. But the capital T truth that we know, the gospel truth that we know, is that this light is here and it is in us, but is not for here or for us. The capital T truth of the gospel is that that light breaks through those cracks so that we can take it and we can take it out into the world and use it to break apart little pieces of the darkness that is all around us in our own lives and in the lives of others every single day. So it is good that we are here, but not to just hear the stories and pray and have the songs that remind us of something that already happened, but so that we can quite literally be touched by Jesus and remember that we don't have to be afraid and that we can get up and share a little bit of that light with others until the day finally dawns. Amen.